Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. If your sack is bulging with shrooms, they're
A
not.
fat sack is silly.
So let's say you're munching down on somebody's fat sack of silly, right?
Yeah.
And the cop walks up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tether Radio Podcast, the only podcast keeping you from spiraling out into the infinite abyss. I'm your host, Daniel, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and co-host slash nomadic businessman, Joseph.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I don't know. What is that from?
I don't know. I think like a 50s commercial maybe or something.
Gotcha. I got you.
Totally unsubstantiated.
Yeah.
I have nothing. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Glad to have wrapped up this week. It's been kind of a little bit longer week. The part-time job that I have at a local bar, which I don't even know if I've mentioned that on the show, but anyway, I basically work part-time at a local bar, like shift or two a week kind of thing, just to whatever, have a little extra money when I'm not taking care of the kiddo. And this weekend, basically everybody with the exception of me and one other bartender were out of town, so we basically split the weekend up. And it was a long weekend. So
Dude, quickly, Good Morning is a song with music by Nacio Brown and lyrics by Arthur Freed, written for the 1939 film Babes in Arms, performed by Judy Garland.
Ah, nice, Judy Garland. I actually had to explain to Megan, sorry, real quick tangent on that. Megan was like, wait, The Wizard of Oz wasn't filmed in color? And I was like, dude, it came out in like the 30s or something. I was like, color stuff didn't pop up till like the 50s or something, right?
I actually think The Wizard of Oz was the first color movie, man.
Oh, no shit. I thought that it was one of those things that they went back and like colorized it.
We'd have to take a look here, but I think that was like the whole thing was like when she was in Oz, it was in color, and that was like the mind-bending thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Characterized by its legendary use of Technicolor, fantasy storytelling, blah, blah, blah. But like that was like when she's there and it's in color, that was like the shocking thing, I think.
Maybe it was just the fact that it was one of those things that I think that they ran The Wizard of Oz on whatever, like ABC, NBC, whatever existed back then kind of thing. And
Right.
Obviously most people didn't have access to color TVs at that point, because I would say that, right?
Yeah, but you actually might be right here.
So maybe in theater it was in color, and
Yeah.
then something like that. But most people might have seen it at home.
Yeah, I think you're right here. Oh, here we go. Special effects.
Bear with us, listeners. Sorry.
Yeah,
we don't like to leave loose ends.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to take a look at this and maybe report back.
Yeah. All right.
But
anyway, so worked part-time at a bar, had a long weekend because I took care of the kid all week, and then basically worked the whole weekend. P.S. We are recording on May 12th, which is Mother's Day. So if we have any mothers out there that are listeners, happy Mother's Day. Give yourself a pat on the back because it's a hell of a job.
Yeah, but I guess they'll be getting that note the day after. So
yeah, that's true. But you know what? That's the great thing about recordings. They're the gift that keeps on giving. You can
Better,
listen to it as many times as you want.
better late than never.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so
Absolutely.
I had a really, well, in my opinion, kind of a strange interaction yesterday with an old man. He walks in and he just looks pissed off in the first place, and which is always a fun customer to deal with. So
Uh-huh.
I go over and he's like, I want a draft beer. Well, at my bar we have 22 taps. So I was like, okay, what draft beer would you like? You know, we have 22 to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I want, he was like, whatever, like Budweiser or something. I was like, well, we've got Miller Lite on right now. Is that cool? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and I want a salt shaker. And I was like, I don't think we have a salt shaker. Dude proceeds to blow the fuck up on me.
About the
What
salt
do you
shaker?
mean? Yeah, what do you mean you don't have a salt shaker? Every time I come over here, you know, this Mexican restaurant, I steal a salt shaker from them and bring it over here and leave it so that I'll have a salt shaker over here. What do you mean you don't have one? And I was like, I'm telling you that I don't think that we have a salt shaker. And he goes, well, you go in the back and look for one. And so I'm like, all right. So I go in the back and stand there for like 2 or 3 minutes or whatever. Because, dude, if you're going to be an asshole like that, I'm not going to help you out. And so I stand back there for a little bit and I come back up and I'm like, sorry, sir, no salt shakers. So he was like, oh, that's ridiculous. I don't think I'm going to come here anymore. And I'm like, we're not going to miss your $8 worth of Bud
Wait,
Light.
why?
You know?
So why does he want a salt shaker anyway?
He
What's
literally
doing?
wants to just dump salt into his beer. That is what he
Okay.
wants to do.
Okay.
So, and I understand that with some types of beer, specific like Mexican lagers and stuff. People, I mean, that's not out of the norm, but like, it was just fucking like weird that he would be all up in arms. And he basically he was like, well, why did they always have salt and you don't? And I'm like, well, because they're a restaurant. I literally said that to him.
And what did he say?
He was like, well, that's still ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, it was just it was ridiculous. And I mean, dude, he had like 2 beers and then left, you know? And I'm like, I've never seen the guy before. It's not that big of a deal. It was just, it was just really it was one of those things that it was kind of toward the end of the night anyway, and I had already had my fill. And then this fuckboy rolls in, so. But
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
working with the public is just a fantastic thing.
Yeah, dude. It can be a little challenging. I think it's kind of I steal one.
Yeah.
I steal one and I leave it here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
I mean, if it means that much to him, why doesn't he just bring one with him,
thank
like
you.
from home? Is
Like,
he
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, they make you can get at Kroger, like, those packages that it's like individual salt packets,
Right.
and just toss, you know, whatever, a handful of those in your fucking glove compartment. And so if you want to have a beer and dump as much fucking salt and kill yourself, cool, do it. Do it under, you know, but bring your own fucking salt.
Yeah, that's pretty odd, man.
Yeah. But dude, people get pissed off about the like strangest shit. It really is like, I don't know. I wish that everybody had to work like a year or 2 of retail in some form, you know, before they went on in their life, like in high school or some shit like that.
Yeah, I just guessing here. It seems like that people that go into restaurants and rage
Yeah.
like that. Um, the issue is much bigger, much
Oh
wider,
yeah.
much deeper.
And that's the other thing is because obviously, dude, it's one of those things that whatever his son could have just died. You know, it's like you don't know the fucking complete story or whatever, so it's just kind of that's why I just brush it off. I take it with a grain of salt.
Dude, I take it with a grain of salt from the finest stolen salt shakers.
Yeah, but only Himalayan salt because I'm on a keto diet. No.
Is that true?
I don't fucking know. I know that that's like a big staple of like that diet that they're like, oh yeah, Himalayan salt. It's like that pink salt. But
Wait,
anyway,
Himalaya. Hold the fuck on.
yeah.
Himalayan salt. How's it different than just sodium chloride?
I have not checked into that because, to be perfectly candid with you, I couldn't care less. Fad diets don't interest me.
Right, right.
But
Keto's a big deal, dude. A lot of people are on that shit.
yeah, well, if you want to put your body under that stress, that's on you. So
Yeah. So shall we?
yes, let's.
All right. Let's get this thing kicked off, man. Driverless cars, amazing technology.
Yeah. Now the question is, how can it be implemented? Well,
hmm
let me tell you how one.
What's its most useful state in 2019?
Well, I'll tell you what its most useful state for a young and up and coming female porn star, or I guess amateur U.S. porn star Taylor Jackson. She decided, after having a little conversation with her boyfriend, because she was quoted as saying, earlier this year I was I was on a road trip with my boyfriend, and he asked me to have sex with him while driving. We both thought it was hot and joked about doing it again, putting it on Pornhub. We thought someone had to have done it before, so we looked it up, but we couldn't find a single video. So, you know what? Kudos to her for finding a target market.
Right.
But anyway, so basically in the video, and I didn't watch the actual video. They have screenshots in this article. If you'd like to look the video up yourself, that's completely cool. But it apparently is on Pornhub currently. And basically what happened is, first of all, step back. If you're not familiar with the technology, Tesla has had an autopilot system in their cars that basically uses sensors and cameras in order to keep the car in the lane and make sure that obviously you're not going to rear end anybody or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But huge disclaimer, it's like, or not disclaimer, I guess, but when you use autopilot, it literally has a warning like pop up or whatever that it's like you should be still looking at the road and have your hands on the wheel. Are you supposed to have your hands on the wheel? Because I think that if you turn the wheel, then it takes you out of autopilot. So.
I think you're just supposed to be in a position where you could take over,
very quickly.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, so basically what happened is they ended up pretty much turning on autopilot and banging one out on a freeway in, what was this, in California?
Let's see.
I can't remember where.
Yes.
I think it was. But anyway, so it got a bunch of shit from the internet, I guess. Because they were just saying that, obviously that's not what the autopilot system was designed for. And, I just, people amaze me on a daily basis because, I read about this shit and I remember, and I can't remember if we covered this article a while ago. This was like no, we probably didn't, but because it was probably over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy that had autopilot on and wasn't paying attention, and there was some kind of glare on the camera as a truck, 18-wheeler, was turning in front of him. So the camera didn't pick it up, and he just like literally was decapitated because his car drove underneath the trailer and it just scraped off the top of the car, kind of thing. And they found his like body in the car, whatever, like a mile down the road or something like that, or like off the road kind of thing. But do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do. And that was what ended up happening. There was a glare.
There was something about the sun. basically setting, like just where the sun was, it created this glare, and the camera was unable to pick up the truck turning.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, which I don't know if it was necessarily described as a glare, but I know that it had to do with basically the sun and just the lighting and everything. It was just off. It was kind of a perfect storm kind of a situation, but
yeah, well, and I guess not to go too far down the rabbit hole here with the fairly light article, but that's one of the biggest concerns with supposedly with as we kind of transition into autonomous cars is like people trusting them too much and not really understanding what it means, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's what there's, just fun fact. There's like some speculation that we'll go from a certain number of accidents to, way more accidents, and then to these things being basically completely safe.
Yeah.
Because people won't understand what the difference between, like, does Tesla autopilot? Do you hop in it and it takes you to the grocery store, or does it just like keep your car, between the lines or whatever? Right.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and there was actually, and not to go even further down the rabbit hole, but there used to be a podcast on CNET called the 404. And they would discuss just like tech and whatever the future of tech and stuff that's out, and they were actually talking about how basically if you don't have 100% implementation of autonomous cars, then it won't work, kind of thing. You cannot have humans driving the cars, because then you're creating a scenario that or I guess in theory, the programming and everything would be talking to each other, or whatever, using whatever network. The cars would be communicating with each other, kind of thing.
Right.
And the human would be out of the loop. So, whereas all the cars may figure out that, oh, we need to get out of the way really quick to let an emergency vehicle by, and then there's a human driver in there somewhere and he just gets T-boned or something,
Well, yeah, because the unexpected portion is the erratic human. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. It's crazy to think about that.
It is, but it was an interesting discussion. But
yeah, for sure. So let's see. So as we move on from the from Tesla autopilot, here we go. Here's a startup that it's funny. I was, when I texted you this morning to connect, I was just reading about how venture capital, these venture capital groups are just losing their mind on cannabis cannabis companies, which this doesn't. I guess this is a cannabis company, but tell us a little bit about, how do you pronounce it? Dea?
I don't know if it's Dea, or I would think Dea, because otherwise why would you even have an E on there, right?
Yeah,
like, but it's spelled Daye. So we'll call it Dea. So we pulled this one from TechCrunch. Dea, a startup developing a crampon. Jesus, I'll get it eventually. A startup developing a cramp-fighting tampon raises $5.5 million from Khosla, Index, and Kindred.
Yeah.
So apparently Khosla Ventures is a big VC out of Silicon Valley. And then you've got Index Ventures out of London, and I believe is Kindred Capital out of London also. According to
I don't really know. I don't know any of those, actually.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, so these guys have decided to start up a company for like femcare products, and they're developing a new type of tampon that uses CBD to help tackle dysmenorrhea, which is basically the cramps and pain induced by, basically menstrual cramps kind of thing.
Right.
And they've raised $5.5 million in funding from those aforementioned investors. So basically, what this company is looking to do is they want to, I the way that this article reads, at least, they want to put a new spin on feminine care products
Mm-hmm.
because they, in their eyes, which I think that they're probably spot on with this, but like the standard tampon is it has not changed over the course of like decades, pretty
Right.
much. You
Okay.
know, same materials are being used. I mean, you know, they might be able to put a nice floral pattern on the applicator these days,
Right. Right.
but like all in all, man, it's pretty much the same thing. And so they wanted to kind of put a little spin on this and see if they can't do something. And basically, this would be like a medicated tampon. And their point is the fact that in the I'm gonna get really anatomical, so bear with me, listeners. I apologize in advance. Um, in the vaginal canal, there are a shit ton of mucous membranes, which are very good ways to basically get a drug absorbed. So that's why, and I'm sure Joseph's heard of this, but I don't know if the listeners have. But there's some like alcoholic women will actually soak tampons in like liquors and insert them for that reason.
Are you
Because
saying intoxicating liquors?
correct.
Okay.
And yeah, because what it does is it passes what's known as first pass metabolism, which is where your body removes the vast majority of the toxin, aka the alcohol, by your liver. And by going in certain administration routes, you can pass that. So like intravenous, vaginally, nasally, or nasally, I guess. But there's different ways that you can pass it, and so that's why there's all these different products and administration, you know, forms, or I'm sorry, product forms, so that you can have different administrations. But anyway, getting back to the article, yeah, man, which this is interesting, but like we've kind of talked about, I'd like to see the actual like data. I mean, obviously they're holding, or they're carrying out, not experiments. What's the word? Jeez.
What do you mean?
Like I'm
I don't describe it
basically
further.
research projects kind of thing, or
Oh, right.
research.
Right. Right.
But anyway, they're researching this, which, you know, coming from the background that I do, you always got to watch out for research that is funded by the company that's you know that the product is being researched. I mean, that's basically why we have the opioid crisis currently, is because, you know, doctors took the word of the manufacturer. So, but anyway, I would be interested to know what kind of results, you know, they're actually getting, and I don't think that they have any public info out there, but they said that they have basically seen positive results and stuff. So
Yeah, the thing that that where you kind of, I don't know, it just seems kitschy. It just seems like I mean, I don't know. It seems kitschy, but also something that is fairly common with people that are, you know, quote, serial entrepreneurs or whatever, is just to find a trend and raise money around the trend. And then it's, you know, you make money. Your goal is not necessarily a super successful business, or excuse me, not a super successful business. Your goal is not necessarily like a, you know, unicorn that goes public. It's just to be purchased by another company or whatever.
yeah,
And so this CBD thing is interesting because, you know, people are putting this in everything from, and I think they even mentioned this in the article, I think they say everything from, you know, coffee to shrimp cocktails or whatever. But that's the thing, is right, like the usefulness of CBD. I mean, it's not a panacea, wonder drug,
Yeah.
for everything. But VC is definitely going to treat it like that for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future,
Well,
So
and I mean,
it
I
just
think that
seems like the
we've
market's not really ready for something like that. But
yeah, and I agree because I mean, like, even though the CBD stuff, like you said, it's it's an up and coming thing. Um, I mean, the studies out there for it, I could be speaking out of turn, but I don't think that there's a shit ton of studies that show the like actual effectiveness of it's more of like, oh well, this person took it and they felt better, but you know, the placebo, 50% of the placebo people felt better too, kind of
right,
thing.
right,
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I guess what other products they end up trying to roll out, and if this is going to be like a theme, like a CBD infused feminine care product kind of line,
right.
or what. But yeah, it really is. I see CBD oil as, and not to discount any users out there, because like, man, if it works, it works, and you're not having side effects and stuff, or adverse effects. Rock and
Hmm.
roll, man. Even if it's just placebo and all in your head, do it to it. If it helps you, it helps you. But I kind of see CBD oil as and CBD in general as kind of the 21st century snake oil. So, because I mean, I have like you said, I have a hard time believing that it can basically cure or treat all these ailments. So it's like St. John's wort, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I just, we're going to see so many people push into this product area,
Hmm.
and I then just folks try to figure out how to try to figure out how to capitalize on it. But
Hmm.
I don't know. CBD soaked tampons, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So the other thing, real quick to mention, as a side note with Dea, is they're also looking into trying to minimize waste because God, they had a quote in here. Over the course of a woman's lifetime, the average woman uses enough tampons to fill two double-decker buses. The waste either ends up in our oceans or landfills. We want to relieve the burden. Period. We want to relieve the burden. Period. Care has on the environment. That was a weird sentence. Sorry. And offer a product that is equal parts body safe, effective, and as sustainable as possible. So I think
Right.
they're also looking into, I would say, I'm sorry, every time I think of like biodegradable products, I think of those really fucking loud sunchip bags that are no longer around.
Right, where it was like a huge, everybody was super excited about them, but then
Yeah.
they were so fucking loud, they had to get
Yeah.
rid of them.
Yeah. It's just like what if they're like loud tampons
Do
just
you,
to make them biodegradable?
I had totally forgotten about that, but like
Yeah.
it was like it felt like a slightly stiffer, slightly more stiff or whatever, like chip bag,
Yeah, well,
but they were
it was like
so
somewhere.
fucking loud. That is hilarious. I
Yeah, it
totally forgot
it
about that.
was somewhere between a plastic and a paper kind of thing.
Right, right,
But
right.
like if you got like one chip like normal Russell, it's like you try to grab one out of this bag and it's like you know.
Yeah, the
But
super loud crinkle. That's
yeah,
right.
that's
Sun
pretty.
Chips ditches compostable bag in
Yeah,
2010.
and I think they actually had fucking like noise studies on that shit. Like somebody rustling the bag versus
Yeah,
like the original packaging. So, but anyway,
Sun Chips' new 100% compostable bag is hilariously ear damagingly loud.
yeah. Which, if you don't remember it or it passed under your radar, check it out, listeners. It's actually some pretty funny shit. Um, but anyway, so they're looking at a couple different things. Obviously sustainability and and just having a smaller footprint on the environment. That's kind of buzz stuff currently.
Right, right.
And so they're looking into that also. But it'll be interesting to just kind of keep an eye on them and see what really comes of it. See if it actually makes it to market, or is there a market for it? So
Yeah, supposedly VC has invested. I was just poking around on this morning. Something like over $1 billion, 1.3, $1.4 billion in cannabis products this year. I think it was this year. So yeah, onward and upward, man. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So this next article, I think is kind of fucking absurd, but is extremely interesting to me. So there have been a couple of companies that have gone public in the first part of this year, two of which are Lyft and Uber, right? The ride sharing companies.
Did Uber go public first?
No, Lyft went public first.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Lyft went public first, and they went public, and it left a little something to be desired, right? But it's interesting because you and I have talked about this before. As a matter of fact, I think we were talking about this like damn near when we kind of first started this thing, about these companies going public, and really what they're kind of doing once you step back is now we all kind of own a piece of the shit show,
Yeah.
The business model is not profitable, and they're hard to monetize, man. Every ride that Uber gives, it loses 58 cents. And so
how do I mean? So okay, obviously I don't have as deep of a knowledge of like finance and business models and stuff like that, but like how does a business exist for even months with that?
So this is the magic of venture capital. Basically what you're doing is you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? However the saying goes.
Yeah.
You are artificially propping up nothing's really happening, right? You're not if these businesses were forced to, obviously, if they were forced to, compete, it's just so crazy that we've gotten to this point where there's so much money that you can actually have this conversation.
Yeah.
But I should say so much money collected and deployed in this way.
Yeah.
Aggregated and deployed in this way. But so the goal in probably, I don't know, the early 2000s, maybe 2007, I would have to look this up, 2005, 2007, something like that. But there became this like really interesting metric, and maybe even earlier than that. But there was this really interesting metric where people were valuing companies. Jesus Christ, totally tongue-tied.
Nah, dude, I feel you today, man.
We're valuing companies and speculating about the value of companies around the number of users that were engaged, right? And this to me is just really interesting because clearly not all users are not all users are the same. Not all users are actually real people in some situations, in some businesses. In the case of Facebook, for example,
long and short, it's a shitty metric.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting. I mean, and if you think back on it, I mean, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback here, but if you think back on it, it really doesn't make fuck all sense anyway. I mean, in traditional finance, you look at things like LTV, lifetime value, right? And so I should be able to say, okay, how much money does it cost me to acquire a customer, right? Like how much in marketing, how much in whatever activity that I have to go through to get this customer. How much is that? It's called an acquisition cost, right? And then once you have your acquisition cost, then you say, what's my customer's LTV, lifetime value, right? Then I say, okay, what's my churn rate? So how frequently are customers leaving my system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like super, super basic 101, you know, economics around a product or a business or whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, a different metric gets introduced, and people say, "Well, I mean, I'm sure they're still using LTV and shit like that." But they're saying like, how many users do you have? Like, how sticky is the app, right?
Yeah.
How often are these users coming back to use this app? But what's absurd is that oftentimes, they're using these metrics that don't really fit the business model because these companies are like super heavily subsidized.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an accurate idea of what's happening. It's not an accurate depiction of what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, you'll have a free fucking app where you've got a billion people using it. Well, it's like, okay, you give shit away, obviously you're gonna have more more people use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then kind of the battle cry, or not the battle cry, but the suggestion was, well, okay, we'll just figure out how to monetize this later. So if I have a billion
Yeah.
people, I can just figure out what to sell them later.
Yeah.
So the way that this relates to Uber is that when Uber first came out, I certainly suspect that they were under this, operating under this guise, and so the business was just growing at this astronomical rate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would suggest is taxis, the taxi business, was probably a pretty good indication of where, excuse me, giving rides for money as a job could exist in its natural state, or should exist in its natural state, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, of course, there's some artificial regulation of how big that system could get, because there are like taxi medallions and things like that, that are predetermined. So it's not, the market is not kind of naturally demanding. The market is not reaching a natural state of equilibrium because there are some like artificial restraints put in there with medallions and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is that billions of dollars got dumped into Uber, and this is kind of a long lead up for a short slide here.
Mm-hmm.
But billions of dollars got dumped into Uber and other rideshare groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
These companies grew at an insane rate. But then if you use Uber regularly, you will have noticed that your rides started becoming much more expensive, right?
Yeah.
A ride from, LAX to our spot in downtown LA a few years ago was, $18, $20, whatever.
Yeah.
If I do that shit now, it's 40,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of on par, getting back on par with like where taxi cabs were anyway.
Yeah.
Now why? Because that's probably a pretty accurate idea of damn near close to a market equilibrium of the inventory that's out there and what people are willing to pay for these rides. So these things get heavily subsidized. You've got billions of dollars that are floating around. These companies get so fucking big that they don't have a choice but to go public for their next quote round.
Yeah.
Right. There is no other place to go. So Uber's valuation, right?
Yeah.
The expected valuation when they went public, $90 billion.
My God, 90 billion, like with the B?
$90 billion.
Jesus, dude.
But here's the issue. They are valued at 90 billion. Now you fucking tell me how this is possible.
Yeah.
The company is valued at 90 billion, completely unprofitable. Now, I understand how a company could be valued at 90 billion and be completely unprofitable if it had a shitload of assets.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
So now, and I'm speaking slightly out of turn here because I don't know, maybe they own a ton of office space or whatever, but 90 billion is a big number. And so I think we're in this really interesting situation where you've got a company that's valued at $90 billion, has no clear path to profitability, period. No clear. So just to be to put a fine point on it, that means every dollar invested into this business results in a loss at this point.
Yeah.
It's not profitable.
Yeah.
So we are in like the upside down right now, man.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it just doesn't. It's not. So then here's why this article is where we're actually talking about this article.
Yeah.
Well, and let me also mention just a quick note about timing.
Uh-huh.
So there have been more businesses that have chosen to go public, or have signaled that they're going to go public or chosen to go public in 2019 that are unprofitable than ever before. First of all, it's fucking insane that there could be a company that could go public that's unprofitable, but whatever. It's not, it's not, if a company wants to underwrite their stock and take them to a secondary market, they can do it. That's just a really, really interesting thing. Now, one of the reasons that it was suggested or has been suggested that these companies that are unprofitable, these behemoth companies that are unprofitable, want to go public is because the venture capital firms that have dumped billions and billions of dollars into these businesses don't have another place to go. And the way that venture capital works is that you got to sell the business. The business has got to be profitable at some point, right? And so what VC firms basically did was scrape this turd off their boot onto the public markets.
Gotcha.
Flat out. So they grew this business at an absurd rate, have slapped these mind-bogglingly asinine fucking valuation numbers on this. Yeah. And now you've got Uber stock that is gobbled up by, and so the way to think about it is they've kind of diversified, they've kind of flattened the risk, right? Yeah. So instead of having 28 investors that have, $14 billion in this company or whatever, and I'm sure it's way more than 28 investors. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah. Now you have, 100,000 investors or whatever that all have $8 in the company. You know what I mean? That all have like $1 million in the company or whatever.
That's I mean, God, that just
it should be illegal. No, flat out. It should be completely fucking illegal.
Well, it seems like you should have to prove that your company is profitable before you're able to go public, right?
So here is why I don't like. I said that a little bit earlier, and and that's kind of my gut. Yeah. But now, as we're talking about it, something that I'm thinking about is there's something known as value discovery, right? Uh-huh. And so you might look at this is like how Warren Buffett has become so wealthy, right? Uh-huh. Basically, when you look at the valuation of a business, all valuations aren't the same. Like you can take the same entity and you can have 3 different people value it and they're going to come up with different valuations. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they're going to come up with different valuations is because what they put an emphasis on may be different depending on who it is and who their perspective is, right? Mm. So you could use when you're looking to value a company, whether this is from an investment banking perspective or whether this is from private equity perspective or whatever. Like if you're in the business of valuing businesses, let me put it that way. You're going to create what's known as comps. Not comps. You're just going to have a couple different valuation metrics, right? So you might use like a discounted cash flow, which is just like the present value of future cash flow. That's certainly one way to do it. You can look and say, okay, let me look at 10 companies that are kind of set up in the same way as this company. Mm-hmm. How does the public market value those companies? And you can start to build this clearer picture of how these companies are valued. So my point is that if a company is unprofitable, or let's move the dot just a little bit closer to reality, or is less profitable than it should be, right? Yeah. Then as an investor, you may say, well, this is a great opportunity to get in because I see that strategically they're going to turn the corner and now this undervalued thing is going to be valued, at a more reasonable rate, and thus I'm going to make money, right? I mean, that's really like when you're investing in a stock, that's really what you're saying is it undervalued or is it overvalued?
Well,
right?
so, but even saying that, that's why I would say that at least, like I completely understand. I don't think that it should be regulated to the point of like having to show a certain, um, having to show a certain value kind of thing, or having to show a certain profit level.
Mm-hmm.
But like it seems like it should have to prove that it's in the black, I guess.
Well, but
You know
but
what I'm
that but
saying?
that's the thing though. If all of these investors,
Uh-huh.
and this sounds so fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's true. It's the way the market works. If
Yeah.
all of these investors say $90 billion, or I think Uber raised 9 billion from this offering, right?
Yeah.
But the valuation is $90 billion.
Hmm.
So if all of these investors say 90 billion, no, that sounds totally reasonable.
Hmm.
But there's a small faction of people that's like 90 billion, hell, 900 billion is more accurate. Then
Yeah.
then they think 90 billion is a steal, and they're gonna buy into the stock at 90 billion, right?
Yeah.
If there's a faction that says 90 billion, fuck that, they're not profitable, 9 billion, then
Yeah.
then they're going to short the stock, right? They're
Yeah.
going to, potentially through an option strategy or whatever, they're going to figure out a way to short the stock, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
what's interesting is in the stock market, that is how this price equilibrium is reached.
Yeah.
You're saying if everybody has perfect information,
Hmm.
right? The same information about this entity, then you should have, folks that are bullish, folks that are bearish, and the average of that, should be the actual correct price for the stock, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but here's the interesting thing about these guys going public
Yeah.
and this article. It is being suggested that so I'll just read from this guy, Steve Blank, right? A
Hmm.
Silicon Valley entrepreneur, startup advisor, and Stanford University professor.
Hmm.
There's no evidence. There's no evidence the core ride-hailing business is profitable. Where will the next $1 billion come from? Okay,
Hmm.
and so
Which
analysts and Uber
what's the new
insiders.
currency, Joseph?
Yeah, right. Data's the new oil. Analysts and Uber insiders point to a possible answer. It's treasure trove of trip data,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's the biggest fucking Hail Mary I've ever heard, ever. That's just so absurd.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, because I swear to you, it's like the more that I learn about these businesses and the way that this works, it's nobody has any fucking clue what's going on. And everybody's just kicking the can down the road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, so what does that mean? Specifically, what does that mean? Right? A treasure trove
Yeah.
of data. Okay,
Yeah.
well, how? What do you say? And so you get into this, you start popping the hood and like poking around here. And they're like, well, dude, okay, I mean, this is how absurd this is. So this guy, I'm gonna butcher his name, but Kosh Rao Shahahi, maybe
Hmm.
Kosh Rao Shahahi, who
Hmm.
is like the head data guy at Uber. He wants. It says that data collection and machine learning are vital for Kosh Rao Shahahi to realize his vision for Uber as the Amazon for transportation. I mean, when you're a
What?
$90 billion company and
Yeah.
you start saying like, no, I'm like the Amazon for transportation, or
Yeah.
I'm like the Uber for fucking baseball caps or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so silly and sounds so junior varsity. It's ridiculous,
Well, it's
And so,
just they're just comparing themselves to a successful company,
well,
right?
well, that's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And then the other side of this, it's so interesting to me,
Yeah.
is it's like the I don't even know what the word is here. These guys are just fucking charlatans, man.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just it is. So you get to say we want to be the Amazon for transportation, and then the article clarifies, inferring where people want to go and how they want to move around, much like online retailer Amazon.com predicts customers' future purchases. Well, I can fucking tell you without a doubt, that it is not that hard of a problem to statistically fucking figure out where people want to go.
Yeah.
Right? Like as a matter of fact, I'd say it's already been done by cell phone carriers. Right?
Isn't that when they like the old technology of throwing a rubber tube across a road, and every time a car drives over it, it counts a tick?
Well, yeah. I mean, right. Well, that's certainly going to tell you how much traffic's on the road. But I mean, I'm saying like if you look at, like, I find it insane that this person who is at the helm of data at Uber is saying shit like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, I'll bet you with some simple Googling.
Yeah.
I mean, if I maybe even now, right, during this fucking podcast, cell phone companies have already figured out how to map where you're going and how you're doing it. Period. That's it.
Yeah.
Like geo data, geo relevant data, is already a huge thing. And so,
well, shit, dude, we talked about it, and I can't remember. I don't know if it was with you or one of the guest hosts, but how McDonald's has geofencing for their app, so that as soon as you get within a certain spot, it pings them and says, "Hey, so and so's here to pick up their order. Go ahead and start making it."
Correct. And also, you have your cell phone in your pocket, and if your cell phone is traveling at 60, there's a good chance you're not jogging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, this is not. This is just absolute absurdity. So my question would be, why the fuck do you need Uber to figure this information out? You don't.
Yeah.
You absolutely do not.
Yeah.
And so, I just think that it is the bigger problem here, and we'll move on. But the bigger problem here is that you've got the bigger problem here, and I would love to just call it on the show and here in a year or so. Hang on, just a second. Excuse me, just a second.
Yeah.
Good God. The bigger problem here. Excuse me, that was had a fuzzer that went up my nose there.
A fuzzer?
Yeah, dude. I don't know.
Is that indigenous to California?
Yeah, dude. It's the Fuzzius Maximus. But I think the bigger problem here, and what this is exposing, is that Silicon Valley VCs have done a really good job of kind of staying behind the scenes, right? But as they've gotten super greedy and super silly in the way that they've deployed capital, and I used to work or used to work more regularly, I guess I should say, in an industry where in a section of technology where that happened, right? Where people were just dumping silly ass money into a place where nobody knew what the fuck was going on, right?
Yeah.
And I think that as these target companies become bigger, it's going to become more obvious that people are just, to put it pretty straightforward, to put it in a straightforward way, are just making shit up. Like if you have a big exit and you make $1 billion and you start a VC firm or whatever, like there is this false equivalency that you know what the fuck you're talking about. And you don't. Like that's not real. Like you should have to defend these decisions that you're making. And so what ends up happening, at least in my humble perspective here, is that VC for years has been able to say, well, the metric is this metric because we say the metric is this metric. And then everybody else is like, oh yeah, well, that sounds reasonable. Stickiness
that makes sense.
Stickiness of app, and which is really just a proxy for churn rate or whatever. But how long people are using screens and whatever. But how does that actually translate into money and value creation? And the reality of it is that it doesn't. Now, here's where we get into the odd world, right? What happens when people generally agree that the value of something may not have anything to do with money? And that's where it's like you can't tell if some of these VC shops are like way the fuck ahead of the curve or just like, speaking gibberish.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean there could be a world we are traveling towards where, something that is of value
hmm,
is traded for something that is of value but no money takes place. Almost like a data barter, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Where you've got something that I could use, I've got something that you could use, we swap, and then I end up monetizing that thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so there is value that is created and transferred, but it's just not measured in greenbacks. I mean, that's something that's very real and could happen.
yeah,
However, it's sure as fuck is not happening with the Uber IPO. So anyway,
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. But yeah, so kind of in the same sense of the well, a big takeaway from this that for me personally was just the fact that you've got this company that's failing miserably with their current business plan, and so they're just like talking about basically pulling the old switcheroo on you, and now they're going to monetize your data, of
Yeah,
which you know what I'm saying. And the reason that I put it in that manner is because kind of leading into this next article, it's kind of the same thing,
well, and let me let, let
to a
me
degree.
let me say this one last thing
Sure.
here. The other thing is, if you think about venture capital rounds as really just a series of kind of like marketing
Hmm.
events, which they
Hmm.
kind of are, right? Like you have a company and you get out there and you make a deck and you go and you present your company and you're talking about what you're doing and you're going to revolutionize the way that taxi cabs work. And then it's like people are like, interesting, but what if you thought of it like this? And then you like add this other little thing to your business model. And then it's
Yeah.
like, and then this thing evolves to the point where, everybody's so whipped up about this new opportunity. And then you have to do that again every
Yeah.
single round. And so I think that now that Uber is going to be held accountable for this, I mean, dude, people made a shitload of money on this. Like,
Yeah.
wrap your mind around this.
Yeah.
Passing this financial hot potato down the line, investing in a business that is unfucking profitable. People made billions of dollars.
That's
That's
literally
how
mind-boggling,
VC
man.
works.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It doesn't matter if shit is successful in the end, as long as the next sucker pulls the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why VC in its current state should be at least frowned upon and potentially illegal,
Yeah.
because you are taking in very informed people who are
Yeah.
then tricking less informed people. You've got some dipshit analyst on Wall Street saying, "Oh yeah, it's a data game." What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so on to the
Yeah.
next article.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. So the we pulled this one from The Verge. Are you doing this one, or am I doing this one?
You can start it. We'll both tackle it.
Sure. Um, so I pulled this one. A photo storage app used customers' private snaps to train facial recognition AI. So I was actually not familiar with this company, but it's a photo app called Ever, and basically what they sold their not sold. It was a free storage photo storage app that offered free unlimited private backup of all your life's memories. Well, obviously everybody sees the word free and they automatically jump on board. And what kind of comes to mind for me, because I know that Megan and I used to use, oh my gosh, I think it was another photo app that started with an F, and I can't remember. Can't remember what it was called, but this was before Google Photos came out or whatever, which
Right.
we use Google Photos. I know they're literally going to do the same thing, but honestly, I feel like Google has enough information on me at this point that it's a drop in the bucket. So,
Right. Right.
but which is probably not a very good mentality to have. But anyway, um, So they launched as a simple cloud storage business in 2013, but pivoted to become a facial recognition technology vendor in 2017 after realizing that a photo app, quote, wasn't going to be a venture scale business. That's pretty funny, right?
Well, I mean, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. So basically what they figured out is they figured out that they can take a cache of photos from millions of people that use this, and they can create basically as many possible different faces as possible, like just doing like mashups and just like, whatever, just everybody looks different in the world. And they can feed this into a system to analyze and make a better facial recognition AI system kind of thing.
Right.
And but they did it in an extremely not nefarious necessarily, but just it was completely and utterly like a switcheroo kind of thing. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and we're not gonna tell our customers. Which that was the other big part, is the fact that they decided to do this without informing their customers that they're going to be using their customers' data to basically make better facial recognition AI.
That seems legit, though.
Yeah. Well, so in they have a 2,500 word privacy policy, and the only mention of anything about using this data in that manner is one line, and it reads as follows: "Your files may be used to help improve and train our products and these technologies." That is the most vague, like, clause, I guess, that you could possibly like write up.
So
in my opinion.
at the bottom of this, I'm gonna read two comments, right?
Yeah.
This I think this is really revealing as to just how people just really don't understand. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, but really do not understand what is happening, right?
Yeah.
So this comment is from a user, King Locks. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what to think at this point. It's so difficult to avoid data harvesting tactics. Browsers track, Google services, Amazon, all these powerful systems track you, and there's no easy way just to say, no, stop tracking me. Is this our future, just to expect our data to be put in an anonymous category and resold or repurposed? Yeah. And this Ghost McFunky responds,
yeah,
that's what people don't seem to get. Web dev and system admin here, right? So this guy's a developer and sets up systems.
I think I've heard of him, Ghost McFunky.
Ghost McFunky, yeah, sure. I'm sure. That's the sound you hear when he walks in the room. This isn't the future. This is 10 years ago. Yeah, it's the norm. It's what pays for every free, quote, free service you use, like all social media. And yes, it's being used in ways you don't like, but it's intended to be done so anonymously. And yes, you agreed to it when you started using whatever website, including this one. I don't like it, but I know too well that it's true. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's how the internet works. The internet is paid for by ads. Those ads for marketing and effective marketing need data. You are the data. That's
terrifying, kind of.
It is exactly correct.
Yeah.
The internet protocol, IP. That's what IP is. The internet protocol was not monetized. It was given away. So then people said, well, how the fuck do we pay for this? And this is how it's paid for. Yeah. From the first day, dude, this is how it's paid for. Advertising. Yeah. People want to reach you to control you.
Yeah.
That's what advertising is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that this is kind of where we are, it is what it is, man. I mean, if you get something for free, you are the product. That's it. Period. Nothing's free. So, it's totally crazy. I think companies like this, though, dude, I mean, legislation cannot keep up pace. Companies doing shit like this in very short order will, I think, CEOs will serve jail time for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's totally crazy. It just
Yeah.
doesn't, you know.
So I don't know why this just made me think of this, but I looked it up, so I'm gonna read it. When he finished that comment with "You are the data,"
Yeah.
it made me think of Sarah Connor from T2. Watching John with the machine, it was suddenly so clear. The Terminator would never stop. It would never leave him. It would never hurt him, never shout at him, or get drunk and hit him, or say it was too busy to spend time with him. It would always be there, and it would die to protect him. Of all the would-be fathers who came and went over the years, this thing, this machine, was the only one that measured up. In an insane world, it was the sanest choice.
Damn, dude. Damn. You know what? Instead of machine and and all that, just sub in Coca-Cola and
Yeah, right.
and then
It would never get drunk and beat him.
yeah.
It would
And
always satisfy his sugar needs.
that's exactly right. When he had a hearty thirst worked up from a grinder, you know.
Yeah.
it would always wash his pickles and ham down his gullet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So while we're on a tangent, let's just
Yeah.
let's just tangent real quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you seen this Ted Bundy movie?
No, I haven't. That with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I actually. So there's a girl down at the bar. Well, actually, a couple down at the bar, but the wife is really into true crime stuff. And so when they come in, I always chat her up about like the last podcast on the left, shit that I've been listening to. And she said that she turned it on and watched it, and then basically it was just like, that man, that wasn't very good.
So I actually really liked it.
Oh, really?
I actually really liked it. But
Yeah.
what I thought, so Zac Efron was great.
Mhm.
But what really blew my mind
Mhm.
was the story of Ted Bundy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even about the movie for me. It was like it's just crazy. The dude starts murking people in
Yeah.
Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Starts taking trips over to Salt Lake City to kill people. Then ends up that they discover that he's killed a couple folks in Colorado. He gets put in jail. He escapes from jail. They catch him, put him back in jail. The whole time he's like maintaining his innocence. He escapes again, right? Makes it up to Chicago. And then like the crimes that like shocked the nation with him, doing this like zany shit down in Florida where he breaks into a sorority house and beat people with a log. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, and you're just like, I'm like watching this, and then I like looked it up, and I'm like, this fucking guy had such an insatiable appetite for killing people that while he's on the lam, like
Yeah.
that his instead of like sneaking off and like trying to get away,
Yeah.
he just wanted to kill more people.
Yeah.
Like, and then you start like reading about the trial and shit, and it's just like, dude, the guy was very smart and batshit crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Defending,
Well, no, and the scariest
himself,
part-
like
yeah.
it's just totally wild.
So last podcast on the left, which I would 100% recommend to any listener out there that likes true crime. And I can't remember if it looks like they only had it was a two-parter for the Ted Bundy stuff. But 100% would recommend it, man. They do a great job of covering it and give you a really good background. And they also make it really light because it's basically three comedians that are giving the information to you. But anyway, it's episode 99 and 100 of Last Podcast on the Left. In addition to the other Netflix thing, did you see the Ted Bundy tapes?
I didn't see it. I mean, I know that it exists, but I didn't
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah.
I really liked that one. Megan and I watched that one, and I really liked that one. I'll probably end up watching the Zac Efron thing just because I honestly I've kind of gotten on a true crime kick, like the rest of the people that are following the fad, because apparently it's like super huge right now on like via book and podcast. So, but yeah, it's some interesting shit, man, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, you've got to read about the whole story though. It is so fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I know it's just like he's like cutting people's heads off and like saving them. I
But
mean,
you know the interesting thing about all that stuff and even serial killers in general is the vast majority is sexually driven. The vast majority, if not all of it, has some kind of foundation with sexuality and just like whatever these dudes like, just that's how they got off. No shit.
well, I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, how far would you go for the for the for the best one ever?
how far would you go for that O?
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Oh my God. How far, how far would you go for the O, bro?
Shit.
I feel like somebody's gonna rip that tagline off, and it's gonna be in like some sort of like teen movie, right?
Yeah, I hope it does, man. Because I do want to say that I've never heard that term before, so or that phrase.
Gotta throw it
So
up on new sentences on Reddit.
yeah, right. But anyway, we'll go ahead and rotate into this next one, man. I'm gonna put on my next hat, my nerd hat. Um,
Dude, wait a second.
what's up?
How far would you go for the O? Nothing when I
Yeah.
Google it. Wow. You better get that shit up on Reddit, dude. Hey, you know what? You better
What's
put it
up?
on the blockchain. So
Put it on the blockchain,
so
man.
people know. You better put
Yeah.
that on the blockchain, man. Block
It
nine.
seems like yeah. Where I want to make it to what's the website like? Where did this meme start or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. You better
And it's
get it
just
on
like
it. How
oh,
far
Danny
would you go
B
for the
super
O?
Danny B super P.
How far
He
would you
said
go for
it.
the O, bro? I mean, this is serial killers, man, cutting heads off, man. How far would you go for the best O? Um, all
That's
right,
awesome.
so this cool gas technology could kill 99.9% of deadly germs in the air. This just sounds like a bad idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Well, so apparently it's been used pretty widely already, but I think that they're just looking to expand its uses. Um, so I pulled this one from the Next Web. It's called oh wait, you just read that.
How
Um,
far would you go for the O? It's so good. It's so good.
Uh,
Okay.
but this cool gas technology could kill 99.9% of deadly germs in the air. So basically, what has been used, and they're just trying to figure out more uses for it, is this. It's called a non-thermal plasma, and it's basically a gas that's made up of electrically charged particles, but as a whole, there is no charge. It is a neutral charge gas. So the reason that I think that this article is actually getting a decent bit of traction was with all of these outbreaks of like measles and like mumps and just stuff that's very contagious and can be spread through like um, respiratory droplets like sneezing or coughing and stuff like that. Uh, Scientists are looking to try to figure out how they can eliminate the viruses and basically airborne pathogens, viruses and bacteria, And this looks like an extremely effective, an extremely effective venue, I guess, because what this stuff does is these charged particles. Sorry, I need to get down to the nitty gritty, but basically what they do is they inactivate viruses like in a split second anytime that they bump into them, and then they can also disrupt cell walls or cell membranes of bacteria, which
Okay.
just little bio 101. If the integrity of a cell membrane is not kept, then the cell dies, period, because it
Okay.
basically, it's like if you took our the skin and muscle off of a human, our organs and shit would go everywhere, and obviously we couldn't function. So kind of the same difference, but yeah. So I think that it's going to be. I mean, I think that it's pretty neat. They say that it already has a shit ton of applications in medicine and or in the medical and food industry, which makes sense to me. I mean, like they're actually running tests currently on a pig farm, I believe, and basically running the air through basically filters or vacuums of this gas so
Okay.
that it can pull as much shit out of the air as possible. So they're
Okay.
thinking that basically between like microfiltration and something like this that would be able to, address shit that's like nanometers large. They're thinking that they would be able to implement this in maybe like airplanes or schools and basically places that people can't get away from other people. And obviously, that businessmen have to make trips when they're sick, and they
Right. Right.
recirculate that air, and I'm sure it gets filtered to some degree, but I'm sure they also don't fucking have like HEPA filters in airplanes.
Right.
So yeah, this will be kind of interesting to watch. They do kind of mention that it would be. I think that they were saying that it would be kind of similar to almost like ozone, which ozone they scientists know that, and it's been proven that high levels of ozone can cause respiratory issues. But they're saying that this is just it's like ozone but more benign kind of
Got
thing.
it.
So
Got it.
so I don't know if it's going to be one of these things that it's like, hey, look how awesome this is, and then 10 years down the line, the line, 10 years down the line,
10 years down the Rhine.
we're gonna be like, oh, everybody's got mesothelioma because because we used non-plasma or gas or non-thermal plasma, to clean our air.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it seems like it has some very specific uses, but yeah, it seems like it has some very specific uses. But dude, I don't like this drive towards you know, uh, frankly a cleaner world. It just seems like if you're not, I don't know, dude. I don't know, man.
well,
To me, it's like for research purposes, awesome. But
yeah.
like, even antibacterial soap, I think we are going to find has been problematic in hindsight.
And just as a public service announcement coming from a pharmacist, people out there, don't buy antibacterial soap. Just buy like normal like detergent soap kind of thing,
Right.
because the vast, vast, vast majority of what's being removed from your hands when you wash your hands is being removed physically. So it's literally the actual act of rubbing your hands together with water to carry away whatever you're knocking off, kind of thing. So, I mean, I think there's a place for soap, but I agree with you. Antibacterial soap, there's not really a purpose to it. I mean, it just doesn't really fucking matter that much, and unless you're like actually handling shit. You know, I mean, if you're handling like chicken and stuff like that or whatever, that you literally are going to be exposed to specific bacteria,
Right.
maybe,
Right.
and even with that, it's a big maybe, because you're still just going to be the soap is not going to be killing the bacteria. It's really mainly going to be washing it off of you into your sink. So anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, little tangent, just because you know what, the more you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, it I don't know. It just seems like
I feel like we should rename this podcast the Tangent Radio Podcast.
oh man. Well, hey, speaking of you know, what did the mushroom list on his dating
How
profile?
far would you go for the O, bro?
What did the mushroom list on his dating profile?
I don't know what.
Hey, I'm a fun guy.
Well, I saw that one coming from a fucking mile away.
Thank you.
Very nice. But yeah, dude, take us into what Denver's doing with psychedelic mushrooms.
Hang on just a second.
There you go.
Just want to check something. Okay, cool. Yes. What is Denver doing with psychedelic mushrooms? So Denver is, and it looks like this passed by a very narrow margin, might be decriminalizing psilocybin.
So can you explain a little bit about how a state would decide that, I guess?
Yeah, so it goes to vote, and decriminalization does not mean it's legal. To be clear, that just means that on the stack of things that are important to enforce, this goes on the bottom. So,
Gotcha.
you know, quite literally, issuing a parking ticket is more important than taking you to jail over a fat sack of shrooms.
yeah, very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. If your sack is bulging with shrooms, they're
A
not.
fat sack of silly.
So let's say you're munching down on somebody's fat sack of silly, right? And the cop walks up. No, so and he taps you on the shoulder and you're like, "Oh my God, am I in trouble?" And then he just looks at you and he goes, "How far would you go for the O?" And then he winks and then just walks away. now you're left in a really confusing situation, man. You know, you got a fat sack of shroom dogs in your mouth, but no. So how far would you go for the? It's so good. It's so good. God damn, it's so good. Got to put it on the blockchain. Anyway, So anyway, they have voted to decriminalize shrooms, which honestly, man, should be done. I mean, the opioid crisis to me has really laid bare like a couple of things. We absolutely cannot look to public policy to in my mind, to regulate these things that are completely available. Like we just can't do it. I mean, the marketplace for drugs is there for a reason. Yeah. I mean, it is a two-sided market, or excuse me, it is a marketplace that exists because people want it to exist. Yeah. So with laws or without laws, you still have people that want to sell these and people that want to buy these. So and then instead of you know, applying this idea of total regulation, or excuse me, this idea of I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like stopping a transaction like that. Just regulate what's out there. You know what I mean? Just be like, if you can be a functional heroin user, fine. Yep. I find that very hard to believe, but but if you are caught intoxicated in public, there are rules, right? And so anyway, psilocybin, it has been suggested could be used recreationally in a semi-safe way. There's a really, really awesome episode of Joe Rogan's podcast that talks about psilocybin being there's a theory that basically, what's it called? Like it's called ape on mushrooms or some shit like this, where I butchered it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's called. So the idea is that basically that one of the reasons that this is pretty far out theory, but one of the reasons that human beings were able to evolve certain characteristics so quickly was because when they started coming out of trees, they would follow other animal herds around, and psilocybin mushrooms would grow out of the other animal herd shit, and people started eating them regularly, right? Have you heard of this?
No, I don't think so.
It's pretty fucking wild, because what this psychologist, I think, no, or he might actually be like an expert on fungus or something. I can't remember, but he's like at the nexus of understanding what these chemicals would do to your brain. But it is a reality. Like, it is true that psilocybin, the way that it affects your brain, it actually does allow you to open up new pathways. Literally different ways that electric impulses move across your brain, which suggests that physically, this shit blows my mind. Physically, that psilocybin could help you think about things differently physically, right?
Yeah,
it's just wild. So that means just connecting things in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the suggestions of why people were able to develop as quickly as they were, because when you take psilocybin, certain things that kind of pop up that people report experiencing are like a lack of fear, like the ability to be more empathetic, right? And so if these qualities that have developed as really important leadership qualities in human communities are very much supported naturally by the way that psilocybin makes people feel, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to watch this podcast, dude. It's crazy. I mean,
I'll check it out.
And it's called the stoned ape. That's what it is. Stoned ape hypothesis, I think.
Stoned ape.
Yeah, but it's absolutely well worth watching. But anyway, we're running way over. I do.
Well, so real quick. No, fucking stop.
Okay.
Is psilocybin was also one of the drugs that was being explored for microdosing, right?
Is being explored for microdosing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That and acid. And I mean, the crazy part about psilocybin, man, is that it is like there's a huge conversation happening right now about nootropics. And nootropics are, just chemicals that or substances, chemicals. I don't really know how to put it, but that allow your brain to work in different ways, right? That encourage, increased electrical activity or whatever, impulses, in your brain. And psilocybin is like this hugely, hugely effective drug in that way. Like, that's why you trip. Because you're actually your inputs, you're receiving the same inputs, but you're just doing different things with them, and once they make it to your brain. But man, stoned ape hypothesis. Honestly, once we hop, you've got to watch it. It's fucking.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out, man. Well, rock and roll, man. I think it's about that time, right?
Yeah, let's do it. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This has been episode
48, man.
Fucking 48. Damn.
Yeah.
All right.
4 left before the year.
That's it, man. Which, by the way, I renewed a bunch of domains. I'll have to tell you about it later.
Oh, yeah.
But feel free to send us an email, tetherradio@gmail.com. That's TETHERRRADIO@gmail.com. All Our password is wait. No. So send us love letters, send us hate mail. We don't care. Just send it all. Twitter at Tether_radio. You can find us on Instagram at Tether_radio. Facebook, Tether Radio, all one word, TETHERRADIO. So this has been episode 48 of Tether Radio. We are 4 off from 1 year of putting these little suckers together. Yeah, man, I think the plan is to continue, brah?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for 104.
Let's see what let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens. So this has been Tether Radio. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Daniel.
We're reminding you to stay tethered, friends. Enjoy your upcoming week, and we will talk to you in a few.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. See you guys next week.